What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer guys. It's probably about time to weigh in on the video and also talk about, and really the main goal of this video is to spend some time talking about what's next. What's next for the channel? What's next for Escape from Tarkov? Where do I stand? What's my quote-unquote position, if you will? Some thoughts and maybe a little insight. Maybe some things to think about. I want to be really clear in this Let's Talk Tarkov that we're going to jump into. I'm going to share my opinions. I'm going to share a few of my opinions. I'm going to share some things and some just information, as I always try to do with these videos, that you may not be aware of if you're not following Reddit, or not following Twitter, or you're not staying really close up to date. I'm sure most of the folks that watch these videos have at least heard, probably watched some of the content that I'm going to speak about. And I want to provide some of that, as well as provide my take on it, and some really good and I think healthy conversations with some folks that agree and some folks that disagree with some of my positions on a few of the core issues, I think, revolving around everything that's happened in the last little over a week or so regarding cheaters, hackers, everything related to that. So let's jump in, try to make this one relatively quick, but as you know me, I like to talk, so it might not. Let's talk Tarkov. So the first things first, I'm not going to show the video. I'm not going to do a reaction. The wiggle that killed Escape from Tarkov is, at first, I will say I was not the biggest fan of the video. And I had a realization over the last couple of days, having some conversation with Sloth and some other folks in Twitch chat, and a couple of players that I ended up meeting, that I think my biggest issue for my dislike for the video was that I didn't want the information to be true. If you don't know me or the content, you're just clicking on this. I've played Escape from Tarkov for about 7 or 8 wipes at this point. Very consistently, I have thousands upon thousands of hours. If you check out the channel, we've been uploading videos for a long time. I've been doing hardcore and an escape, which is a single player solo playthrough, in addition to grinding towards Kappa and all that stuff in all of the previous wipes. By no means am I the best player, but I just share that because I've been playing the game for a long time. And one realization that I had the other day was that the video frustrated me because I knew not necessarily that the exact information was true, but that there was truly a cheater problem in Tarkov. People had information that they probably shouldn't, ESP being the biggest problem. And we certainly all, I think, at some point run into our issues of folks that have just better gaming chairs and better aim. But most of the time, I think the biggest issue I have is this game is so reliant on information, which is also why sound is so important, that makes it frustrating. That makes it frustrating because I knew probably deep down that this was a core issue and it was not being addressed appropriately, and here we are. That's my frustration. I'm not happy about that. I really enjoy the game. Again, you don't sink thousands of hours into something that you just sort of like. I really do like the game. Battlestate Games, I have no issue with the company. I have no issue with Nikita. I have no issue with any of those folks. I don't know them personally. I probably never will. I want that company to succeed so the game succeeds and so it's better. And I think that's an important take for probably most of what I would call like the casual player base. And I probably on the upper end of not being a casual with the amount of time I've played, but I don't do this for a job. I don't do all that stuff. Content creation is a hobby for me that I enjoy, and I enjoy passing information on to folks and helping people when I can. And so that was my frustration with the video, was not the delivery or any of that, just the fact that I just truly deep down did not want it to be true, even though I knew that it was bad. Maybe not as bad as it was then presented, which probably makes me feel even worse, but it was bad and it needs to be addressed. Stepping back from that and seeing where things have kind of folded out, and I give this piece of advice to anybody watching this, is sometimes it's important for us to maybe not jump to assumptions or conclusions, and give time to things when there is time to form an opinion, which is why I'm making this video now. Again, if I would have gone on my initial reaction, probably said some things that I would have either stepped back from, which is okay, and that's perfectly fine to do. But I also would not have gone about gathering some additional information and honestly giving Battlestate Games and Nikita a chance to kind of respond to this. Where my next level of frustration is somewhat with the community around the idea that they're not doing enough, and everything that they now do going forward is also not going to be good enough. That's a pretty bad line in the sand to draw, which I feel like a lot of people are taking. And yes, does their communication prior to this suck? Yeah, it hasn't been great. But you could say that about a lot of game companies. That part could always get better, right? That is very it's a very fickle thing to pen, because your personal assessment of their communication is going to be what determines if they're doing it well or not. And even the community can come together and say, well, they're just really not talking to us. Yes, that's true. It's not good. But then when they start talking to us, and while we might not like all of the things that they're saying, I think it's a really bad precedence to set that we then flame them for even then attempting to. Now, the only way for us to know if this is actually going to get better is time. If they continue to communicate, if they continue to post updates, if they continue to give us information and help us to understand. So I just want to spend a few minutes talking about that. I think it's important for all of us, especially if we're really invested in this game, to just detach ourselves from that a little bit. Kind of be grown up about it, which is maybe a bad way of saying that. I just feel like we've got to give them time to kind of respond and keep working on some things. And maybe you're at the point where you're fed up, and I fully understand that. That's tough. That's a really tough place to be. And I could understand it for folks that have been playing the game longer than I have. And maybe you've been playing it just as much or even less than I have, and have felt the same things and are frustrated. I very much get that. But if you want the game to succeed, I think it's important that we give some time, we give some positive, constructive criticism back, and then we help to kind of build this up and funnel it in the way that it needs to go. But let's talk about some things that have happened over the last, couple of weeks or so. And I'm going to just show a few things really through Twitter, and then I'm going to jump onto Nikita's Q&A and scroll through a couple of items as well. So essentially what ended up happening is we had this Reddit post that got put up. Nikita himself got on, started talking hackers, cheaters, other things related. From that point, they started talking about the ban waves. A lot of negative reaction to this, which is interesting because a lot of people wanted this information, and then it was given, and then people were upset that it was given. And I know there's like more to that. They want to know more about how it was detected and how this stuff works. And I get that that's like a fine line, and they can only give so much information, but they could have definitely given more. I don't think that's the argument we need to be having. You want to know that people are getting banned? Here you go. Do you want to know better statistics? I'm with you. Absolutely. But this is at least a start. And maybe this helps to build framework, and then we can help them to continue to refine what they're providing instead of just being upset that they didn't give us what they want immediately. And I think that's like kind of an underlying tone to a lot of the discussions that are going on. From that point, this then gets updated, the Reddit post again. They post again that there's additional cheaters that have been gone and gotten booted. They do a technical update. Some people post some things. We get another rad changes incoming and some additional updates. They talk about some recently banned RMT sellers, which is certainly good. I talked in a previous video that I don't know that this is like the core issue. This is certainly a big portion of it. But I don't think this is the people in the majority of the time that are ruining the game for folks, which is probably more where we need to put some energy towards, but that's a separate conversation. And then we get some additional just game changes. Now, the interesting thing from the kind of like the Q&A and stuff that was going on is it didn't focus just on cheaters. It did focus on some quality of life stuff. A lot of the stuff here is quality of life. I'm going to do a separate video at some point later this week talking about initial enemy contact reaction speed for bosses, about the goons. give it a watch. It's a interesting one. Enjoyable is a good way of describing it, but it's very interesting. But there was some good stuff that came out of that. We get some changes to flea market, basically rep. We're getting some flea market changes coming in. Essentially, you're not going to be able to do any barter trades on the flea market. It's all going to be for money. I think this is a really positive step, both for the game and for RMT. For the game, because it's so frustrating not being able to buy the key that you need for your quest. That's going to now go away because people can't barter for another insanely hard key to find. They're just going to have to put it up for money, which is great. And that's going to take some adjustment. So I hope people are prepared for that. Some things are not going to post for what they should and be hard to sell because the values aren't right. That's going to take some adjustment. But they also upped flea market offers. So you should see, if you've been playing, you should see that you have essentially the ability to get to 3 slots very, very quickly. And this is kind of back many, many wipes ago. That's how it used to be, and then it changed, which again, you can make an argument was RMT. Nikita did talk about in the Q&A that it was really against kind of helping the slow progression down, but I think adding an extra slot, especially early game, to the flea market, not that big of a deal. And then from that point, we got a summary of the Q&A. So I want to jump over here. There was a lot that was talked about. Again, a lot of it was cheater related, and a lot of it was just quality of life and just game related. And I give Nikita some props for this. He shouldn't have to do this. And you can take whatever take you want on why he did, damage control, this or that. Absolutely it was. But if you're being frustrated that he's doing that, like, that's not, in my opinion, the right response either. And the reason I say that is because most people wanted more communication. He is literally taking the time to do that and literally just taking shit from a whole lot of people. Now, is that shit warranted? We can make that argument. I'm not saying it is or isn't. We can make that argument. And you can certainly feel that way. I just feel like it's such a bad precedence to set that when they start doing some things that are moving in the right direction, we get critical of that. I think that's the perfect opportunity to provide, hey, we appreciated the effort here. This is what we would like to see. If we could start structuring our feedback as a community that way, this would move in a much more positive direction. It would make the folks on the receiving end not feel as bad about the criticism and say, hey, they at least appreciate some of the effort, but we need to continue to refine. And for those giving the feedback, I think it would be a much healthier way to extend, maybe take a little bit of the emotion out of it, and then get something positive on the back end that hopefully we see. And just realize we're also dealing with people. We're dealing with a company that has goals and objectives. We're dealing with people that have goals and objectives. We're dealing with people that have a day job that's attempting to make this game better and be successful. And they have feelings, they have emotions as well. So it's usually not in the best interest when we're trying to make improvements to things that frustrate us to spin it in the negative way. And it just frustrates me. It just frustrates me to see some of the reaction and some of the comments. If you don't like the game, and I know this is like a cop-out, if you don't like the game, don't play it right now. Come back to it. I certainly hope. And the hope from that comment is not like, get the hell out, don't participate, don't give feedback. No, not at all. The intent of that comment is, if you really are that frustrated with where the state of the game is right now, you're going to do 2 things by stepping away. Concurrent player count going down is always going to be a huge factor in the success or lack of success of a game, right? If they talked about in this Q&A post somewhere down here, I'm not sure, basically that there's like 70 to 120,000 concurrent players. That number starts to drop and it goes down to 50,000 or 40,000. Some things are going to be noticed, right? So people are going to want to be like, well, what the hell is happening here? And should it take that? No. But stepping away from the game will lead, 1, in part, to that. 2, I think stepping away from the game gives an opportunity to let emotions cool down. And my hope is that a month, 2 months, the next wipe, whatever it ends up being, the game is in a 10 times better state than it is now. Every wipe, I think that is the goal. And that's the really frustrating thing, I think, with Tarkov is, again, we saw even with this wipe, add streets, take some steps back with a whole bunch of other things, audio specifically. we make some additional changes, but we take another step back. I just hope that we can start moving in the direction. And again, not everyone is always going to agree with the decisions and where the game is going. That's fine. That's normal, right? You can't, Nikita, Battlestate Games can't make everybody happy. They have a vision for their game. They're going to try to stick to the core principles of that vision and move forward. And that's going to piss some people off. However, if they could clearly communicate that and then continue to work towards those goals in a positive way that's obviously good for the game and good for the majority of the player base, I think that would go a long way. It looks like I got booted out of EFT. So I really recommend, if you haven't taken the time and you're curious, go check this Q&A out. This is on the forum for the official page, Escape from Tarkov. They talked a lot about a lot of different things. There's quality of life improvements come. Nikita at one point basically says that, especially like the flea market thing, there's people posting like, how is it possible that this account has 79 LEDXs posted or whatever it is, and why is it still not banned? And he made a very solid point around the idea that sometimes they let those cheats continue, they let those accounts continue so that they can gather more information and then make that cheat detectable and maybe eliminate a broader base than just that individual player. That's really important from a cheat standpoint. Kind of going back to Goatmoth's video and everything, and if you haven't checked it out, I do recommend giving it a watch. It's also interesting, and some additional follow-up, and Jessica Sam and Veritas's podcast had him on recently as well, which also got posted. I recommend just absorbing some of the information and getting some feedback. It was very helpful for me personally, and also gave some insight on some of the things that are going on in and around anti-cheat, the cheating system, how things work, and just generally information that I was unaware of, and certainly not at a level of intellect on the subject to talk about. With that being said, information is power. I think the video did have its intended effect to get some stuff going. Whether that is surface level and you believe Battlestate Games or not is a separate conversation, and I still sit in the perspective of, I'm going to give them not necessarily the benefit of the doubt, but I'm going to give them the time. I want the game a month from now to have less cheaters, have less desync, the audio to be better, the lighting on interchange to be better, which they talked about in the Q&A, and they're working on it. I want the game to be better. I want it to be in a better state. I want it to be more, not necessarily fun to play, but I want it to feel more balanced, more skill-based, and just run better. And if it could do that, I am hopeful that it does, because the opposite of that is that I don't know if I play it. And I think that's a really, really crappy thing. And I had some good conversations with some folks, again, this past weekend on Twitch, talking about there's really no other game like this that gives the type of feeling that it does. We did some raids, and you'll see another video on this week as well, about finding the 2 vertex for Lend-Lease Part 2. Some real highs and lows. It's a good one. Watch it. But I can't get that feeling in another game. And I play lots of other games, and there are other very, very good games out there. But I keep coming back to Escape from Tarkov, and I think a lot of the core community keeps coming back to the game because it's just something they can't get anywhere else. And I want it to succeed. I truly do. If I could personally do something, I would love to do that. I hope by spreading some information and maybe coming at it from a little bit more of a, not even positive, but just level-headed direction on a lot of the feedback that's been going on. Hopefully I can provide some of that, and hopefully we can continue to build constructive criticism about changes that we want to see in the game to make it truly better. And we've gotten a lot of those recently prior to this whole situation. And I hope that every iteration we can just keep moving forward. If we can do a lot for the cheater situation, which we absolutely, and by we, I'm saying Battlestate Games, and for the Escape from Tarkov community has to do, if we can do that and fix some of the other things, I don't know that there will be another game that will rival this and its experiences that it delivers. I hope. I hope. I hope. I hope. I am still on the copium train. I understand the frustrations. It's a really tough place to be. I want the game to succeed, and I truly, at my core, don't know if it's possible, but I'm hoping that it can. And I'm willing, at this point in time, as of the recording of this video, I'm willing to give them time to see what they can continue to do and make some changes that will be better for the game. I also want folks to recognize that, and again, I am nowhere even close to having the technical experience to talk about this. There may be some changes that make this game harder for some people to run. If you want to see change, be willing to accept that that might occur. The game may get worse before it gets better for some folks, for lots of folks maybe. They're going to have to maybe try some things that aren't going to work. And I think we've seen they've tried a lot of things that up to this point maybe have not worked as intended. So I hope that they can do that. I hope that ends up not being the case, but if it ends up being the case and it leads to a better game down the road for everybody, that's where I would like to see it. I just wish I could snap my fingers and know 6 months from now if I'm still playing this game because things have been addressed, or if it's in the same state that it currently is, which is objectively not very good. I will tell you, played over the weekend, had some, definitely ran into some cheaters, had some sus interactions, but also had some really, really good ones. Generally, the raids did feel pretty good. I don't know. Really interesting. Really, really interesting time for Killed Tarkov. So, quick update, and I'm going to finish this video up. I didn't quite cover everything I wanted to, but I hope I got my main points across, which is gather some information, be level-headed, try to remove some of the emotion, some of the things that are coming out from Battlestate games, give constructive feedback on how that gets better, not just the fact that you didn't get what you wanted when they first did the thing. Because I can at least see some attempts at trying, and now you can be like, well, I've done this before and it sucks. Yeah, but did we give constructive feedback when that happened again too? Maybe we did, and maybe they didn't listen, and that's on them. I don't know. I would also say that I think everybody has the same goal, which is a better game a month from now than it is currently, and 6 months from now, and so on, and it continues to get better and better and better. And I certainly hope that some things that they're doing with Arena and all that stuff, I hope is going to help, and there's going to be some bleed over. Recognize that Arena's not out, but in the Q&A here, they talk a lot about certain things, replay features, and some other things. I have always continued to say, and my last good idea, Fairy, is I would love to see not even a replay system, a heat map. I would love to see a top-down heat map of player movements. Literally just give me the time to be able to scroll from 0 to 45 minutes or whatever the raid time is with players, and even to a certain extent maybe player scavs, and toggle that on and off and just see where everybody goes. I think that would help to fill in some gaps and tell people a lot of things. And experienced players, that's the other thing that I just want to comment on. Experience is extremely valuable, and experience in this game can help a lot. So don't be too quick to judge, and if you have a lot of experience, don't be too quick to judge. You have to put yourself in that person's shoes. You have to get in the tunnel with them a little bit, and you have to understand their perspective, their experience, because it's such an interesting thing when you're somebody else watching somebody else, instead of being the one that it's happening to. Just a little side comment there. So what's going to happen for the channel? Still working on our series. I'll be honest, for the last week or so, ever since all this stuff come out, I didn't really want to play Tarkov, to be transparent. Kind of was frustrated, was upset, not happy with where the game is, so on and so forth. So you've noticed a lack of hardcore and our escape series this past week and uploads. We're back at it. We're gonna have a really kind of interesting week this week with some highlights and some stuff, but we're still doing the Twitch thing. We're still gonna have our series going, so thanks for hanging out with us if you're a fan of that. If you're not, please check it out. I do appreciate it. Thank you for stopping into this one. I hope you found it helpful. I would really appreciate discussions in the comments below if you want to talk about anything, or if you want to come over to Twitch or jump into the Discord. Links in the description for all that stuff. I think this is an opportunity for us to really just share our thoughts, and try to come to some baseline agreements on where we can move as a community and as a game to get this to a better position. And that's my hope. So if you're willing to share that down below or over on Discord, please hit me up. Much appreciated. Thanks for clicking on it. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'll wrap it up. Thanks for watching.